that you're here. It's lovely.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Hello, Eileen.
Hi, Catherine. It was meant to happen. I had 2 meetings which overlapped yours, and both meetings were cancelled. So
Ooh.
the universe was in the right place today.
Oh.
So I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, well, I'm delighted to see you here as well. So it's great. Familiar faces and new faces. That's really nice. And Gail. Hello, Gail.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a long working day here in Brizzy, so
Yeah,
the end of
indeed.
my day.
Absolutely. Yes, and there's Jill. Hello, Jill.
Sorry. Hi, Catherine.
Hello, good to see you. Yeah, and other people I don't know, Tony and Wala and Ivan and what is Wahi? If please help me to pronounce it correctly. I'm not. Tanya, Vipul as well, Vipul. David, Connie, yes. Another day. Oh, David. Hello, David. How are you? Good to see you here. With your splash of colour in the background.
Oh, I can change it. So
No,
there's a different
no.
one. I haven't. Oh, I was going to throw in this one.
That's good too. Very nice. Very nice. So it is on the hour, or just a minute past the hour. Sunil, what do you think?
I think we could probably give people just another 2 more minutes and then we'll get started, if that's okay with everyone. Just 2 more minutes. You know, the traffic, parking and all that takes a bit of time when you're going in for an event like this.
Well, I do know sometimes it takes a while for my Zoom to actually connect in.
Yeah, to log on.
You know, whirring around and waiting to connect. So, yes. Yeah. Well, it's great to see everybody here.
Okay, it's 2:02 and I would like to respect, you know, everyone who have made it on time, and I guess it will be a good time for us to get started. So first and foremost, a very, very good afternoon, good evening, good morning, and a very warm welcome to the beautiful session that we'll be having together with Cathryn. So I would like to hand over to Cathryn to shed some light on this amazing, amazing topic that we'll be having a conversation on today. So Cathryn, over to you, please.
Thank you, Sunil. And hi, everybody, and thank you for being here. And I'm really looking forward to this session. It's my first EMCC presentation, so I've seen a few, but this is my first in the hot seat as such. So yes, I'm looking forward to how we can play together today and replenish our creative coaching practice, if that is something that is of interest. And because you're here, I'm assuming that is the case, actually. So we'll be running through a few things. We'll have a breakout room at some point in time as well, about 10 minutes in a breakout room to explore a few questions. And I'll share with you a few creative prompts and a few little things here and there to just get us mulling over our practice. Firstly, though, I would like to make an acknowledgement to country. I live in Australia, and I, do like to give an acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land in which I work, and that is the Jagera and Turrbal people here on the east coast of Australia, and that is actually in Brisbane as well. So I acknowledge elders past, present, and emerging leaders. And I am going to, I know a few of you, so it's really nice to see some familiar faces, and it's really nice to see some new faces as well. So everybody is so welcome. I'm going to share my screen. I do have some images and some various things that I would like to share with you. So please let me know that you can see those, and if there's any issues, let me know, but I'm hoping that you can see everything that's there, which is great. Okay, fantastic. And I need to be able to see you, so let me get my frame in order there. Fantastic. Alrighty, so yes, mind your creativity, replenishing our coaching practice. To begin, I would like to find out where everybody is actually located. So if you would like to either put into the chat function, so everything is available in chat, or you can put it, you can stamp it on the map if you feel like annotating it all. So completely up to you, what you feel inspired to do right now. So it can be in the chat function or an annotation on this global map that we have here and this diverse community that we are. So we've got people in Canada, Hong Kong, Sydney, UK, just outside of London, Melbourne. Yes, another friend from Brisbane, oh, Cairo, Egypt, India, Bangalore, Malta. I have fond memory, well, fond connections with Malta. My mother spent many years there as a young person. So hello, Tanya. Perth, Kuala Lumpur, New Zealand. Wow, that's great. So we can see that we've got quite a range of countries here, which is brilliant. Okay, well, I'll just clear those drawings. Okay. So just a little bit about me, so you just get a bit of context. I have a background in design and visual arts. I'm originally trained as a graphic designer and then moved into doing textile design and interior design work and a whole range of other associated visual art type practices. And an epiphany took me in another direction to which I was exposed to the world of facilitation when I was living in the UK. And so it was a pathway that I found very interesting, and I loved the creativity that was associated. And part of it was because I was based at the University of Arts London at Central St Martin's College of Art and Design. So my role there was as the professional training manager, and I was basically designing alongside a whole range of creative practitioners, courses, programs for corporate clients, who really were wanting to sort of think about their business or their creative practice in different sorts of ways. And so I had the joy of being able to work across the university with, whether that was in textile design, photography, graphic design, drama, a whole range. It was like a treasure trove of creativity, and it was absolutely delightful. So when I came back to Australia, it was like, okay, I want to continue working in this way. So it took me on a journey where I ended up doing my doctorate at QUT and looking at how the arts can be used in the context of individual and organisational learning and development. And just over time, you know, as we all do, our pathways kind of meander and take on various ways of thinking and working. But I am a lifelong learner, so I'm continually in the state of learning and professional development. And I really do love to work with people who are motivated and, you know, do want to create positive change. And I'm also the author of 3 books, with the recent book, which is called Facilitating with Stories, Ethics, Reflective Practice and Philosophies. So happy to share more information around those as and when, if that's of interest at all. So that just gives you a little bit of a background about me. And now it's more about you and us. And we're going to take a bit of a dive into our practice today and think about it from another context or in a slightly different way. And by the way, I do love to hear people's voices. So, you know, at any point in time, you know, if you want to say something or you've got a question, please just ask, because, yeah, I do like to hear people's voices, most definitely. But we will be hearing voices as we go as well. So here we go into this little dive into our practice today. And I'll be sharing a few creative prompts to help us to actually do that. So this quote by Edward de Bono, I quite like it because I think it sort of says it all, really, that we owe our success to creativity and no one really doubts the need for it. It's really useful in good times, and it's absolutely essential in not so good times, or when the times are not as easy as they might have been. So we need to switch on our creativity sometimes, even more so when times are challenging. So how do we actually do that when we might be creatures of habit and stuck in, ruts and all sorts of things like that? But, how do we actually find ways to switch our creativity on if it's actually going to be very, beneficial for us and the people around us? So how do we mind our creativity? How do we look after it? What are the tools, the resources, the ways of thinking and working that can actually help us to consider what is it about our practice that we can actually focus on, whether that is around our business side of our practice, our coaching practice, or whether that's actually around the coaching side of our practice. So, of course, practice is a diverse thing and it has many elements to it. So where is it that we may want to put our creativity, or to re-energise or replenish the creativity that's in our practice? Is it around the business side of it? Is it in the coaching side of it? And any other sort of pathways that, you might be thinking about in terms of your own coaching practice. And we'll get to explore a little bit more of that. So I'm going to invite you for a moment now to reflect on your coaching practice. And if you could just think about what is it that, or how would you describe your practice as you sense it now? How do you see your practice now? And so I'm going to ask you to write down a few words, jot down a few ideas as to what do you think, if you were to describe your practice to somebody, or somebody was to describe your practice to you, what might they say, or what do you say about your practice? So just a few considerations for you right now in terms of what is that thinking that's going on there for you about your practice, and how could you describe it to yourself and then potentially to others? What are the words that come to mind? What are the feelings that come to mind? The sensations. And if you've got a few words there, if anybody would like to share just a few thoughts that are coming through right now, would love to hear you. So again, you can put it in the chat function, or I would love to actually hear a couple of people share. Jill?
So yeah, I'm happy to share, Catherine. So I've got actually drew something first, drew a metaphor.
Fantastic.
Like it's probably a little bit like your Joyce, is like a nucleus, and then there's all these wisps sort of coming out of the nucleus. So, and then my words were emergent, evolving, head and heart, collaborative, mixed energy, because sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down, and stimulated.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jill. Anybody else who'd like to share?
I will.
Helen, thank you.
Though I've been in the world of tutoring and people and education for all my life, I've only just started a formal coaching career in the last year. So I see it as free-flowing, supportive and energizing and positive, but it's also reluctance and a certain amount of shyness. So hesitancy about, and particularly where my niche is and things like that, but I'm still in a discovery phase. So wanting to explore, really.
Wonderful. Okay,
Fun
great.
stuff.
Thanks, Helen. That's great. Anybody else?
Catherine.
Is that
Well,
Luana? No.
it's Andrea.
Andrea. Hello, Andrea.
Hi. You know what I do, so which is coaching with collage. So it's got the creative and the art space with it anyway. But I've used words like rippling, shifting, impacting, energetic, rhythmic, vivid, and visual. And I guess a bit like Helen, the shifting is the, you know, they're never static, are they? So it can be up, it can be down, it can be impacting, it can be not impacting, and that's a rhythmic as well.
Yeah, great. Okay, yes, it's not static. Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Andrea. Noella, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, it's Nuala.
Oh, Nuala. Okay, thanks, Nuala. Appreciate that.
No, that's fine. I loved Andrea's words. I'm like, oh gosh, they're quite exciting, that rhythmicity. I put down reflective, curious, and a thinking partner. You know, I think alongside my clients or get them to think with me. So, yeah.
Great. Okay. Nuala, thank you. And it's interesting when we hear other words, when other people speak about their practice or maybe say some things, there might be things in there that really spark for you, you know, that it's like, wow, you know, I really like that. You know, if my practice was that, you know, what would that look like? What could that be? Why am I energized around hearing some of those words? Or that imagery or that metaphor. So in fact, you know, we can actually be inspired by others in what we hear about their practice and kind of think, gee, you know, I'd like to be able to talk about my practice in such a way. That could be very inspirational for me. So it's great to hear that, you know, Andrea's description resonated for you as well. And of course, your words do too, curious and reflective and a thinking partner. That's great description. And I know that there's some things going on in the chat here. Yes, Andrea's words, rippling, shifting, impacting, rhythmic, vivid and visuals. Sahana, safe space, hopeful and positive, personal growth and transformation. And Connie, emergent, at the cusp, ready for the next stage or iteration, arts-based and trauma-informed, energising opportunities waiting to be realised, more and more a reflection of my true self. Wow, yeah, that's pretty inspiring. Okay, so here we go. We've got our current way of seeing our practice and how we think about it, and we're sort of hearing things from others. So I'm going to invite you now into a breakout room with another person to invite you to have a chat about these questions. So the 3 questions are, how do you hydrate your creativity for your coaching? What helps or hinders your creativity in your coaching practice? And what does it look like and feel like when you are at your creative best? Now, the interesting thing is I wrote those questions, and then when I was thinking about it just earlier on, I thought, okay, I'm making an assumption here too, that creativity is something that is a desirable thing for, you know, ourselves, for our practice, for the people around us. Do you actually think that? Do you agree with that? Do you think that creativity is something that is really worth investing in and, you know, hydrating your practice around? So that might be something to even just consider as well in the chat, that, you know, here's an assumption here that creativity is a worthwhile investment to make in how we might go about investing in our creativity in our practice. So you can play with that. But fundamentally, there's 3 questions here that I'm going to invite you to explore with another person. And we'll come back and share some of that, about some of the things about how you hydrate, what helps or hinders, and what does it look and feel like when you're at your most creative best. And that can be for yourself and also for the people around you, you know, the people that you're working alongside. You know, it could be colleagues in your business, in your organisation, whatever that is. And of course, you know, whether you're doing individual coaching or maybe team coaching or whatever it is, but and right in that engagement of coaching. So Sunil, if you're able to open up the breakout rooms and everybody's happy, I'm just going to check everyone's happy to go and have a conversation with another person in a breakout room.
And
Thank
how
you.
many minutes would you like the breakout room?
10 minutes would be great, Sunil.
Awesome.
And come
All right.
back and sort of share what insights you might have gleaned from that conversation.
Yep. All right. Opening the breakout rooms, and I'll see you guys in 10 minutes.
Okay. See you soon.
All right. Now there are, yeah, every room. Okay, so you were in room number 5, correct? Would you like to go? So I saw him trying to come in again, but I can't locate him now.
No, I think he apologized. He had to leave because he just couldn't make his sound work. And given we've got not that much time left, I'm very happy I can reflect on these questions myself. It's sometimes a bit tricky when two people are really in conversation. I don't want to gate crash and sort of disrupt their flow, really. So that's really fine.
Okay. All right. Let me just do a quick run and check on the others.
Yeah.
All right.
Welcome back, everyone. Good to see you all back here. And being the curious cat that I am, I would love to hear from people as to what insights you got in sharing what helps and hinders, and whether or not you think that creativity in fact is a worthwhile thing to explore in your practice, and what it feels like when you're at your creative best. Who would like to share? Tanya, thank you.
So I was with Vipul and later Connie joined us. But essentially what we spoke about, and we were quite on the same lines, it is the fact that we are client-led rather than we impose our own approach makes us more creative in the process, because it's not so pre-planned, so you have to improvise and go with the flow, if you know what I mean. I also learned to start a session by asking the client, what do you want from me today? Do you want me to challenge you? Do you want me, to reassure you or support you? What do you want from me? And that helps me to reframe the questioning afterwards. So if they're ready to be challenged, there will be some kind of questions, But if they're not in that state of mind, my questioning would be a bit softer, maybe. So being client-led was one that helps us for sure. What hinders in my case is when I'm not a freelance, but an internal coach. Some people would feel that they were obliged to attend. And so the resistance to it hinders creativity, in the sense that I deal with the resistance rather than with the creative aspect. So that's my take on this.
Okay, thanks, Tanya. Thanks for sharing your perspective on that. And it's always really good to hear different perspectives, and whether or not people have other perspectives in that way. So that's great. Thank you. Who else would like to share an insight? Eileen, thanks.
So I was with Jill, and really what was very interesting is, what is creativity to us? What does it mean to us? Does it mean picking up a paintbrush or something else? And we both have a common interest in music, probably Jill more so than me, but I find that creating that space, which is doing something different, helps my creativity. It nourishes it, it hydrates it. So whether it's watching the most stupidest films on Netflix for my Friday night or whatever, it's having that space and time out to enable me to be fully present when I'm with my clients, and to center myself so that I've had my time, I've thought about things in different ways, or even just being present, in nature, just sitting and enjoying things and letting it go, letting all the thought processes go, the analytical side of what we do. And we're like we are, Jill and I, we are open learners. We're always learning, we're always exploring, which in turn, it helps our creative mind to come up with the right questions for clients, because we're there and present, and they might not have the time or the space, but us being there in coaching enables us to create that space for them, where they can be innovative and creative through the questions that we ask.
Yeah. So that really replenishing your own self really lends itself well to being able to be replenished for the people that you work with. Yeah. Great. Thanks, Eileen. Anybody else would like to share? Nuala?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So I was talking with, I hope I say it right, Mohammed Wagi, and I think we started talking about creativity. I always think creativity is when different things come together and you have a new idea. So for me, creativity isn't located in me. It's located between me and the person I'm working with. Can we think together? Can we have new ideas? So we're talking about the role of coach as facilitator, whether working in a pair or a group, that you're trying to create the conditions for that sort of thinking to happen. And we talked about, I think Wagi was talking about breath work and getting people to sort of ground themselves and be mindful. And I was thinking about, you know, I couldn't do my work if I didn't have supervision and if I didn't journal, and I draw my experience as well, like I help to draw it, to understand it. So I think all those sorts of things help free me up to be with the client. And I think Wagi was saying the same sort of thing, you know, kind of, I guess, creating trust, creating conditions for that work to happen.
That's wonderful. And I hear that freeing up so that you can be available, you know, for that. What I love too is that what happens between, you know, the creativity is the thing that happens in between, that third space, really, in many respects, that goes on between us and others. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Any other reflections? Anybody, you know, there's people here who haven't spoken. Love to hear your voices too. Gail, yeah.
I'd like to speak, and also Rika, please join in, because we just seem to be on the same page. It was wonderful. We were thinking, well, what is creativity? And then we started talking about the different approaches that you need to really think about when you're working interculturally. You know, it's not a one size fits all. So what things you need to think about when you're working with people with different cultural backgrounds and Indigenous backgrounds. That was something that we were discussing. And it's not just so much about the coaching, it's how that you're aware of making them culturally safe and feel comfortable in the coaching space, and what is the right approach to use, and which other approach you could try. And, you know, we said that a lot of the ways that coaching can happen can be a little bit Eurocentric. So how do we actually create that coaching space which is more culturally aware?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yes.
Rika was wonderful. Thank you, Rika.
Great, thank you. Now I'm sensing there's somebody else who wants to say something. Vipul, thank you.
Hi, do you want to go, Andrea?
No, it's okay. It's okay, you go.
We'll get to you. I'll come to Andrea. Vipul, I'll come to Andrea after you.
Sure, thank you. I was pondering on the question, and how do you hydrate? So I kind of got stuck at the word hydrate, and I was focusing on that, and it just brought up some words like alive and growth, right? So my answer is more around those areas. So I feel the way I hydrate creativity in my coaching space is by constantly learning, and you know, I'm connecting. Tanya and I were in the same space, and I'm connecting a bit to what you said. I feel it's very important for me to be a constant learner in order to be in service of the client's agenda and the client's work, really. That I don't impose, you know, I don't just get stuck with one philosophy, and I'm not present to what the client's real need is, or the need is being served by just one philosophy. So that's what, you know, that's how I hydrate, to constantly just learn something and then see how I can apply it, you know, like a cocktail.
Yeah, shake it up and give it a go and see, experiment really in some respects too. It's the experimentation, I think, you know, and going back to that, you know, being creatures of habit, that, you know, if we come with the same, you know, box of tricks all the time, or the toolbox, and it's not replenished, then potentially how is that for us, you know, when we're working with others too? Does it start to feel a little bit formulaic, or lacking in that sort of energy or being alive? So yes, I can well understand that. Thanks, Vipul. Andrea, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was with David, and it was so interesting. We ended up talking about what we do, and as a result of that, I think we kind of explore the questions in a roundabout way, but in terms of, I think, stop me if I'm wrong, David, right? But what helps or hinders, I think we answered or questions together, and how do you hydrate? Because we were talking about the nature of creativity, and David said something about the poverty around the word creativity, because of how people understand it, and generally many people understand it in terms of something that's arts-based, and we use, especially in the UK, I don't know where else, but we talk about the creative sector, we talk about creatives, and it's very narrow. And I think for us, and also for our clients, this can be a real hindrance. It can block people. So we've had similar reading, so it was nice to share about some of the people who've read around Mihaly, Csikszentmihalyi, and the flow, and this theory of creativity, these 4 different types of creativity and levels of creativity. So that I thought was really interesting, particularly that language of poverty of creativity. So I think that is a big block, can be a big block for us, but also our clients, in not understanding when we're being creative and then being able to utilize it. And your question, which wasn't here, so I don't know, David, you want to say this, but around, is creativity important? David, you're off mute, so I don't know if you just want to add.
Yeah, I've just said we're all creative, and it's actually part of being human. No, animals are creative too, but that's a whole nother discussion. But it's a part, it nourishes the human spirit. And so when people say they're not creative, you go, well, tell me about when you were 4 years old. And then what happened? But it's really breaking down those barriers in terms of people's limiting beliefs around whether they're creative or not. Yeah. But there was something, as I was listening to people and how our role as coaches, something that I do, and I think I do improvisation. I run improvisation workshops sometimes. As coaches, we're improvisers. We are dancing in the moment. We're taking where the client is at, and then moving that dance with the client. And so I think improvisation for us as coaches, to be also have a practice of working with improvisation, is something that I think hydrates and develops that creative spirit.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Thanks from both of you. I totally agree about the improvisational work. I think that's really energizing for any practice, actually. Leaders, whatever work we do, I think the improvisational work can be incredibly nourishing and inspiring, and really, I think, triggers a lot of creativity within us. And I totally agree about that. It's one of my mantras when I hear people say, I'm not very creative. It's like, yes, you are. The fact that you're a human being, you have that quality already. We might forget it, or we don't maybe nurture it, or somewhere, going back to being children, where somehow maybe it doesn't get acknowledged, or you're told that you're, at some point in time that you can't sing, or that your drawing is not very good, or any of those kind of artistic things, that suddenly people go, oh, I can't do that. I can't paint. I can't draw. Therefore, I'm not creative. And creativity has been, I think, impoverished in some respects, because it has been aligned so much with the arts. And that's not to say that the arts are not creative, and certainly can be and are. Not always too, there can be things about the arts that are not necessarily that. So I really like to think of creativity in a much more expansive way, and it's something that I do work with my clients with quite a lot, is to help expand the thinking around creativity, rather than having an impoverished sort of view of what that is, or a sort of a limited view, in that regard. So thank you for raising that. So what I'm going to do now is invite you into a few little creative prompts to start sort of thinking about, our creativity in different ways. And I quite like the work of Scott Barry Kaufman, and he sort of talks about too that, if we can sort of take ourselves outside of our normal ways of thinking, because again, we can, these being creatures of habits, and some of those habits are really good, and if we had to kind of rethink everything every single day, it'd be quite exhausting. So, having some of those habitual things can be super useful, but also to, there are times when we do need to sort of shake ourselves up a little bit. And it helps us out with this sort of cognitive flexibility. And also, that then goes into our creativity. So again, how do we work holistically? And I love the idea of the movement and the breath work and all of that sort of thing. We're a whole body being. So how do we bring all the parts of ourselves into what it is that we do? So I'm going to just share my screen again with you and think about this, so how might we disrupt ourselves and enable our creativity to be of most benefit for our practice, again, for ourselves and for the people around us. So, if we're sort of stuck in a way, what is it? And in fact, actually, the interesting thing is that we'll either potentially can disrupt ourselves, or we may ultimately be disrupted too. So how do we respond to the disruptions that come our way? And can we improvise or feel comfortable enough for those disruptions to happen? Or how do we actually actively disrupt ourselves, potentially through learning or going off and engaging in other things that can help stimulate us in different sorts of ways? So we're going to go on a little discovery and think about our practice through these little creative prompts that I'm going to offer you. So the first one is this: looking around you right now, on your desk, on a shelf, whatever it is that you've got nearby, your bag, anything, just take a photograph of that particular part of either your desk, a shelf, what's in your bag, anything at all. Just take a photograph of something around you that is organized in some way. So it has some sort of organization around it, whatever that might be. Okay, so when you've taken that photograph, I'm going to give you a minute to actually reorganize that space. So you've got it organized in one particular way, and I'm going to give you a minute to completely reorganize it. What can you do differently? How can you create that space or whatever is going on for you in a completely different way that actually shows you something completely new, or an insight into that space that you hadn't sort of thought about before in another way? So when I say go, get ready and start. You could even do it files on your computer if you wanted to. You've got 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and that's it. Okay, now take a photograph of that space. Now, that shelf, that bag, your desk, whatever it is that you reorganized. And have a look at it and see what you see anew. Is there something else there that you hadn't seen before? What are you noticing that you didn't notice before? Are you happier with the way that it's been reorganized? Could you build on this? Has it sparked something for you in terms of the space around you? And if anybody's got a comment right now, happy to hear a comment.
Yeah, I realized it stimulated my sense of humor.
Yeah.
As I rearranged some items into a funny face, and also a different use of space. I've got a narrow shelf here with items on it, and instead of putting them all on the horizontal plane, I've actually stacked one or two on top of each other, so that I've used a different space.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks. Any other observations at all?
Well, I have reorganized something that was sort of nestled or clustered into a linear by size way. And I've come to know that I prefer the clustered, bit more organic organization over the more linear, more organized organization.
Yep, great. Thanks, Connie. Any other comments?
I'm happy to share a very quick one.
Kira?
I actually had 2 glasses of lemon juice on my table. All I did was to finish up one and put away the glass. So I feel that it's now a little bit more organized with what I really need around me. I didn't need 2 glasses of water around me.
Great.
Well, but it makes me happier.
Yeah, okay, it's simple. It made me happier. That, wow, you know, just a simple little thing that we can change and shift. Noella, did you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I have like a cloth doll that usually stands up, and I put it on its side, and I use the little vase to make a headrest. And I thought it looks perfect, you know, like it's kind of like, oh, that's the perfect headrest for that thing, which I never would have thought of before. So
yeah, okay. So that little activity just then, if you think about in terms of your own practice, again, what are the little shifts that we might make that could actually, you know, create some humor, or, you know, suddenly it makes us happier, or it gives us an insight in some way. You know, again, it might be around our actual sort of practice of engagement with others, but it might be around your business as well. What are the things in your business that if you reorganized, you know, changed in some sort of way, changed in some fashion, that could be incredibly beneficial and useful? So again, we become creatures of habits, and it kind of feels like that works. And it's not until sometimes that we either are shown something else or we discover it in some way that we think, why didn't I do this before? You know, like this is actually really useful or really helpful in some way. So again, we can disrupt ourselves by actually changing things up in ways that can be really simple, but actually can be quite effective for us. Okay, I'm going to move us along into some artifacts and objects. In this treasure trove here are a number of artifacts and objects, and I'm going to invite you at the moment to select one of those objects that actually, and you can choose which way you want to go, tells the essence of your practice in some way, or is a superpower. It represents a superpower. And if you could have that as a superpower in your practice, either again, you know, with your coaching or actually in your business in some fashion, what would be that representation of that superpower for you? So I'm going to invite you to select that object, either represents the essence of your current practice, or it could be a superpower to supercharge your practice in some way. And what would that be? So just make a note of that for now. Just make a note of it and write down anything that's associated: essence, supercharge, superpower, whatever that is. And when you have it, if you just sort of give me a thumbs up that I've got an idea that people have selected an object and are ready to go. Okay, great, thank you. All right. Now think of a letter that resonates for you, just the letter. What letter? Oh, sorry, Andrea, yeah? Okay, so think of a letter that resonates, just the letter. What letter for you today stimulates your curiosity in some way? I'm fancying this letter today, whatever that is. So whichever letter. And then we have a word association. So whatever letter you've chosen, here's a word for you. So you now have a word. So keep that word safe as well. You've got your object, you've got your letter, your word. And here are some images. So what's the image that is a metaphor for you in some way? That for you right now, thinking about your practice, and if you could think, if I was to describe my practice in another way from what it was to where I'd maybe like it to be, nuanced in some way, changed in some way, replenished, hydrated in some way, what would that image be for you? What's the visual stimulus there? And then potentially the metaphor that actually goes with that as well. And if you've got your image, just give me a bit of a thumbs up there. All right, that's great. And now you're going to kind of put all this together. You've got your sort of reorganize. What was the word that went with T? Gail, the word that went with T is tinker. So if anybody else needs a reminder of any words, letters, just let me know and I'm happy to go back to that. Or if you want me to go back to any of these images for a moment to review, I'm happy to do that. Would that be useful? Yeah, okay, cool. I'll do that. Okay, so you reorganize. You've got a little bit of insight about maybe reorganizing in some way. How could I reorganize things about my practice if I was to consider that? What is this artifact or object that you selected that is either the essence of for you, or is going to be some sort of superpower that supercharges where you want to go with your practice as you make some shifts potentially? So you've got your object. You had the letter that you were curious about just in and of itself. It's like, oh, I'm interested in that letter today, you know, for some reason. And then there was a word associated with that letter. There's a word to spark some thinking. What does it mean to you? What does that word say to you in terms of your practice, and in particular, how you might actually think about your practice in a different way, supercharge your practice in a different way, hydrate your creativity in some way in your practice. And then you've got your images. So there's an image that's telling a story for you, maybe this future story. And then you're going to take it all for a walk and put it together in some way, in a new story. So what's this story that's coming together for you? It could be a poem. You can make a poem, you could create a story, you could do a haiku, You could do a drawing if you want to do a drawing in response as well. But somehow all of this is coalescing in some way. That's reshaping your practice in some form. Hydrating your practice. So I'll give you a few minutes in that space, that reflective space, just to think, how does this all come together? And if you want me to go back to anything, just let me know and I can go back to any of the images if you would like that too. Sometimes stories start with once upon a time. It all started with once there was a letter. And when you're feeling somewhat satisfied or maybe even completely satisfied, just let me know by giving a thumbs up, or if you want a bit more time, let me know. Thanks, Eileen. Thanks, Helen. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this for now. And if there's an invitation to share, if you would like to share the story that has emerged for you, love to hear from you. If anybody would like to, again, you can put in the chat function, or again, voices are wonderful.
I'll start. I was drawn to the C for curiosity and the S for spontaneity, and also the galactic image, the blue question mark with the the boy in space. And so the baton was the object. It just jumped straight out of the box at me. Nothing else mattered. So there's this idea of conducting and music and leading, guiding, drawing the orchestra to its best performance. And haiku, you mentioned haiku. I thought, oh, okay, I'll see where that goes. So my haiku came up as, fresh the music rang, birds newborn cry to their parents, spring blossoms from love.
Oh, lovely. Wow. And what does that mean for you, maybe in your practice as well?
Well, it's the idea that, as been said so often, you're client-led. You're working with them because they've got some need to grow, develop, explore, find out whatever it is that their challenges that we're partnering with them for. And I am absolutely certain we all do this out of love, and we come from a place of the heart. And so we've got this blossoming of potential, and we guide and conduct and that potential from our clients. So it's all coming as I'm saying it. I don't.
Yeah. Well, absolutely.
From that creative space that you've generated in this moment. Thank you.
Wonderful indeed. Thank you. And I'm glad that you're, it's emerging for you. And these are things that you can take back with you in terms of, oh, how does this feel for me and make sense for me? And can I work with this? Is it inspiring for me? All of that. Yeah. So thanks, Helen. Yes. Love to hear from anybody else. Beautiful. Thank you.
I firstly want to thank you, Cathryn. I just wrote a story based on your questions and, of course, the pictures. So here goes. Once upon a time, there was a boy who was free and alive. One day, he was given a mask. And so that's where the mask comes in. And out of curiosity, he wore the mask, and the mask told him what to do. He always did what the mask told him to do. All the telling and his complying made him dull and less energetic. And one day, and many days passed, and one day, as he was sitting, he heard some birds singing. And as he looked out of his window, he saw a cage with birds. That's where the metaphor comes in. And he saw the freedom the birds had. And watching them, he felt free. And while he was looking at them, the birds flew to him and gave him the big R. He took the big R, and he understood that R meant risk. So, and then he connected with how he felt free and alive at one point in time. And so his instinct was to throw the mask away, but instead he spoke to the mask and said, I want to be creative, so I will use you to look at the world differently. And yeah, that's...
Wow. Gee,
yeah, just means that I feel for me, it means that I got to constantly remind myself to, in order to be spontaneous and improvise, I've got to continue to take risks and yeah. And use courage, probably. Right,
Thank you, people.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for creating the space, Cathryn.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. sharing. I think we all get a lot out of these stories, actually, because I'm sure that we can all relate to aspects of people's stories. This is the thing, isn't it, too? You know, there are elements that we all would resonate with. So thank you. Anybody else who would like to share their what came up for you?
Hello, yes, this is Wagi Abbas.
Oh, hey, Wagi.
Yes.
Thank you.
May I say that for me, it's very simple. Whenever the innovation are high, this is the up state of the picture. Innovation is high and creativity is high. Please look down to the check signature down. So whenever you are doing right in the innovation space, you will get rewarded for it. As simple as that.
Yeah, right. Yes. Reward comes what? With taking those, I guess, risks too.
Hello?
Wagi?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't get you. I didn't get you at the end.
I think I was saying about the innovation, and innovation, it takes, you know, it's a bit risky sometimes, innovation too.
But the culture you are living in allows you to make some mistakes, whatever innovation is. But at least you are starting doing new things. Whatever the culture is allowing you, they are trusting in your behavior. This is the business development. And you need to do something extra to get some awards. You have also a living to live. So you need to be compensated on your time, you're taking your creativity, your mind out of your family. So this is the perfect thing that whenever you are doing the right thing, provided that you have the support from the surroundings, the company, your family, you will get awarded at the end. And at the end, we need to be all of us happy at the end. We get some money for the wife, for the children, so we can get the life going on.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Wagi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We've got a little bit of time, and I'd love to. Thanks, Andrea.
Oh, sorry, I can share.
Okay, Gail, thanks, and then we'll go to Andrea. Yeah.
Sure. No, I don't mind.
No, go for it, Gail.
Okay, I saw the heart, I saw the T, and then I thought it was Tinker, and then I thought, okay, I can work with that. The question was more about thinking for me, so I put a little story together. I sat with others who'd come from near and far. I found when we talked from the heart, I learned I could make positive changes. I could tinker with my practice to bring the thoughts of others into a safe and aware space and arrive at what was important to them.
Yeah. Nice. And I love tinker. I love the idea of tinkering. There's something incredibly, again, playful and experimental about tinkering. You know, that again, you know, if we're sort of feeling stuck, what's the smallest thing that we can even tinker with? Or even if it's you know, we're feeling not very courageous at some point in time, or the barriers are there, what is the littlest thing that we can tinker with? And sometimes that littlest tinkering can really create some breakthroughs for us ultimately. Thank you. Andrea.
So I went for the puzzle piece. I had the I, which was intention, and then I've drawn to the image at the top with the rabbits coming out of the hat and the word magic. I just realized the last collage I had magic on it. Probably what drew me to it. Plus one of the rabbits looked like she was dancing and she had a red dress on, so I like that. But mine's less of a story. It's just a series of short statements, and it's magical intention, puzzling magic, intentional puzzle, dancing intentionally, intentional puzzling magic. And then at the end I put keep playing and keep purposeful. And I realized as I was doing it, it was a bit like the photo you asked us to take, and that's Scott Barry Kaufman, defamiliarizing the familiar. And what would be like if I put puzzle in front of intention, intention in front of magic, and kind of, yeah, playing and seeing what it felt like and what they sounded like, even as I was writing them. And I guess that's the essence of my work with clients. So it's the essence of how I try to turn up, and the space I try to create for the client, so they feel safe to play, they feel safe to take risks, and the magic that happens as people get unlocked and become more themselves. But there needs to be intention behind that to create that, and the puzzle, you know, and the puzzle for me is the actual the collage creation, I think. Finding things, putting them together, they match, they make sense, or they don't make sense, and that coming together of disparate things, what seem disparate, but also for clients, that coming together essentially of themselves, actually being authentic, being holistic, being true to themselves. So yeah, I was kind of playing with the words that came up.
Yeah, play, absolutely. It's such a quality. And I know you mentioned play in your book too, Andrea, you know, the importance of play. And again, as adults, you know, we can forget the importance of play because it's sadly, you know, it gets associated with maybe that's what children do, you know, adults don't play. We create all of these barriers and these mindsets for ourselves in terms of who we are in the world and how we should be and how we should do things, and it all becomes very prescriptive, and all of a sudden, you know, we are dehydrated, you know, as a result of all of these prescriptions that we put around ourselves, the people around us, and the work that we actually do. So how can we free ourselves and help free the people that we're working with to actually go to maybe some locations and spaces in their bodies and minds that could be really beneficial ultimately, if we can create the right environment and space for that to actually happen. So thank you. We've got time for one more. So if anybody would like to share, I'd love to hear one more story, and one more, you know, insight at all. Oh, we've got two. All right, we'll do two. We'll go Connie, then Eileen. We can squeeze in two.
Okay, thank you. So I made a poetic reduction of my process, which was a fabulous process. Thank you. And it reads: the wooden floorboards, a sound base, reliable, strong, providing structure. Shooting stars in multiple colors drop onto fertile ground. New things grow, fresh ideas, unique combinations, original ways of working that are uniquely me.
Wonderful. Yes, and this is the thing, isn't it? We're all unique. You know, that is the thing. So our creativity is unique. We're unique. So how we show up and how we work, we bring that uniqueness each time that we engage with one another. And so, yeah, I think it's so important to remember that unique quality that we all have. And that is our creativity. You know, it is our unique way of being in the world and seeing it. So thanks, Connie. And Eileen.
It was very strange what happened, because when I was tidying up my desk, I came across a postcard which sits at various angles depending where I am and what I'm doing. And it's a postcard of, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a postcard of the Macquarie clan. And that's my maiden name, was Macquarie. And so it just reminds me of my heritage from time to time. So it was very interesting that the W, when it came up as warrior, I thought, oh, of course, it's sitting here already. So mine's a little story about the various things I had, which was the W is the nest, and the picture was the bird in the theatre. So the warrior was walking through the forest and found a discarded nest. Where is the bird, the warrior said, and then spent their time discovery and exploring, taking apart the nest gently in the process. And when they found at the end of the journey, they heard a bird singing. And they continued and saw that the bird was in a theatre, chirping and singing away to its heart's content. And they, the bird, had found their true calling.
Wow. Our true calling. How interesting is that? That's great. Okay, so what I'm going to do for this moment is just take you back for those objects and images again, just so you can kind of see the contextual aspect of that and where you've come from in terms of selecting those. So I'll take you back in time for a moment. The discoveries that you've made along the way. Discoveries found by rearranging, reorganizing. The discoveries made by some sort of essence of, or superpower, or supercharged in some way. A letter that inspired you, that you were just simply curious about. Our curiosity, where does our curiosity take us? A word that has meaning, that resonates for us in some way, that suddenly has a new life to it. And an image that tells a story, a metaphor for who we are, what we do, and our practice. And we took all of that for a walk and put something new together. There is the creativity. Each of you put together something unique, something quite profound that has real value to it. I encourage you to go back to these and have a look at them again, and to think about them in other ways and how they might re-inspire and re-energize and hydrate you in your practice and creativity. So as Ralph Waldo Emerson says, the mind once stretched by a new idea never returns to its original dimensions. I love that quote. I think that's totally inspiring. You just go and feel your mind, you know, this expansion sort of happening. And it's like learning. Once we learn something, we can't kind of go back. You know, we've moved on. Things have shifted. Things have changed. So I invite you to think about what you might start doing more of, maybe what you might pause on or be more curious about, and where you think, nah, it's time to stop this. I'm going to stop doing this. Whatever it is, there might be a stop button that you say, yeah, no, I don't need to do that anymore. That's not helpful for me in my practice. And if you wanted to put in chat anything that is a stop start for you and you wanted to share, it might inspire others, what would you start? What would you either pause on or be more curious about? And what would you think, I'm going to stop this now? And of course, if anybody would like to say it out loud, very happy for those declarations to be had. And you can declare it here and now with this supportive group that witnesses you. Thanks, Tanya. Jill, did you want to say something? You're on mute.
All right, I'm just sending you a message in chat, or everyone a message.
Great, thank you. All right. So I'm going to move on just to, I'll come back to that actually. So just to let you know, the images you've been working with today and have been on the PowerPoint are my own images. And I started a project at the end of, well, the beginning of this year to think about how would I continue to make sure that I'm nurturing and hydrating my creative practice of the arts as such, but also how does this feed into my own practice and work of facilitation and coaching and things like that. So I decided to create an image a day. And so I'm up to day 311 today, 312. And so these are all the images that I've been creating each day. And they're observations, reflections, little stories of each day, of an experience, a conversation I've had, and whatever is sort of sparking my curiosity. And it is then represented as some sort of visual image. And then each of them have their own story or poem or something around them that describes the work in some way. So I just wanted to share that with you. And also to let you know that I've got 3 books that are available. One is Seriously Playful Creativity, which is available on my website. Look, if you reach out to me and you're interested, I'm happy to do a discount on it for you. It's normally $40, but I can do a discount. The other one is the Facilitating with Stories and the Story Cookbook. That is published by Cambridge Scholars Publishing. The Facilitating with Stories, Ethics, Reflective Practice and Philosophies has just come out. And if you were interested in those 2 books, they're out of sort of my control to a certain degree, but I can offer this group here a discount code of author 40. And if you want to go and investigate, but you can only use that code with Cambridge Scholars Publishing. It's not, you won't get that through Amazon or any of those other places. That 40% is only discounted through the Cambridge Scholars. So, you're welcome to have a look at that. But, please reach out to me about anything, actually. Happy to discuss anything with you at all. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen now. And I'm going to say thank you to everybody for coming along and, being part of today and bringing your unique selves and your unique creativity to this session, and for playing and being open and curious and willing to go on a little bit of a journey. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very, very much, Cathryn.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's so nice to see some familiar faces and to see new faces as well.
Thanks
you
so
very
much for
much.
beautifully
Have a wonderful
facilitated
day
session.
ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.